Aren't you interested in learning breakthrough wealth building strategies, such as how to flip a home in less than 2 weeks using other people's money with no real estate license, or how to build a low-cost home-based business? You can discover how to take passive income from any source and invest it into real estate, stocks, or business to become financially independent investing in any market with Residual Roads Business Institute. Collaborate with Andre and other Residual Roads advisors to create a free action plan and start implementing strategies today. Go to www.residualroads.com or email info@residualroads.com. Welcome to the Investing Uncensored podcast. You've been searching for different ways to become financially independent or generate passive income to live out your life's purpose as you've seen others do it, but need insight on how. Well, get excited because here you'll discover the tips and resources to fulfill that need. Andre Stewart has spent more than a decade successfully making it happen for himself and others. This is the Investing Uncensored podcast. And now here's your host, Andre Stewart.
Welcome to Investing Uncensored. I'm your host, Andre Stewart. And today we're going to talk about inequality and why we're wasting our breath talking about it. But first, I want to say Happy New Year's to you guys and Merry Christmas. I know I'm late, but it's been a while since I've been able to do an episode. I've been truly busy with a lot of stuff. And, I think the last one I did was the day after Thanksgiving. And since then, it's just been crazy with, how the holidays is. So I wanted to get on and start the new year off and talk to you guys about inequality and pretty much how to bridge the gap. So let's go ahead and get to it. It's 2021. And throughout 2020, the inequality gap got larger and larger, which to me, it makes sense. In every country, there's inequality. We're in America, and people are listening to this all over the world, but every country, as long as you have producers and consumers, you're going to have inequality. And I don't think people think about that or know that that is the issue. People are saying, the gap got larger in 2020 because the people that didn't have, they lost even more. And then people like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, who are producers, they got a lot more. But what people don't understand is that Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they're not buying their own product. So the gap is getting larger and larger because I'm not saying all the people that didn't have or people that had less than them, they gave them more. So, the only way that the gap gets wider and wider is because people are buying these products that are being created by these large corporations. So essentially, what is taking place is what it seemed like is taking place is people that are producers. Everyone's a producer in their own right. So if you have a job and you go to work, you're producing income that you're going to take and you're going to do something with it, whether it be buy stocks, real estate, or just put it in the bank. Or you're going to go out and buy something, right? So as long as you are a producer, you're going to generate income. People that own these corporations are producing, and people that have jobs are producing and taking their money to give to the person that's producing something that they want. So the process is the same, but the person that created something or that has intellectual property is obviously benefiting a lot more than the person that is working for the creator. And so the gap is going to get larger because this person who is the creator basically duplicates himself by creating or giving jobs to other people. So the process of inequality, it can't go away because you would have to get rid of people creating companies, real estate being created. You would have to get rid of anything that regards human life because there's always going to be a product that's going to be needed, and there's always going to be someone that needs to buy that. And so it's going to always be the case with inequality because at the end of the day, we all got to buy something. We all need a place to live. We all need food. We all need clothes. So the only way to prevent the inequality gap is to pretty much shut down everything and we just all live on the street. You know what I mean? And then the government is going to get paid. Somebody's going to get paid at the end of the day. So that the whole issue is like, okay, well, these people that are owning these large corporations, we need to raise taxes on them so we can give back to the people that don't have. But the people that don't have are spending the money that they do get on Amazon, or they're spending it on food, or so they're. I don't understand how people expect this gap to decrease as long as we have the system that we do have, or as long as there's life on the earth, it's going to be the case. So essentially, I had this conversation the other day with my cousin, and we were talking, and it's like what they're trying to do is take from a person who spent hours, and like Jeff Bezos, 20 years, he was on his grind in his little office while people were sleeping and counting sheep. He was in his office working and creating Amazon. And so now he created this amazing product that everybody wants to partake in. And now because he did this and he put in all this work, we want to tax him even more for all the amount of time and all the amount of hours that he put in and put the work in. And just because he's making too much money. But he's making so much money because you guys or the other people, or all of us that are consumers, we go out and we do our job and we take it and we give it to him. That's the only way he's getting richer. And that's the only way he got even more rich, because we were in a pandemic and people were sitting at home buying stuff from Amazon. So it's essentially it's not his fault. But at the end of the day, it's like basically we want to shop free. We want to get free stuff. That's pretty much what I've learned in my travel throughout going to many countries is Americans are entitled. We're entitled. Even a homeless person's entitled. If you give a homeless person $1, not all of them, I'm not saying everybody in America feels entitled, but it's a large majority. Take a homeless person, for example. I've had a homeless guy. I try to give him some money, and I try to give him $1, and he looked at me like, "Oh, that's all you're going to give me?" You know what I mean? Like, even a friend, she gave him $2. My cousin was telling me a story, and her friend gave a guy $2 to go get something to eat, and he was complaining about the $2. Like, how are you homeless, living on the street, complaining that somebody gave you $2 to get something to eat? That don't even make any sense. But that's how entitled we are as a country. Other countries don't have the opportunities. Other countries don't have the same type of system we have, so that entitlement is not there because they have to generate their own personal economy. They can't go out here and get a job paying as much as we get paid to even work at McDonald's and things like that. But anyway, back to what I was saying, we pretty much want to be able to shop for free. Because if you look at it, you go to work, you produce, you get income, you take it, and you go buy something from Amazon. We raise taxes on Amazon. So now he produces, he gets paid less because we raise the taxes on him. Basically, you would be able to take your money and go shop for free. I mean, essentially, if we cutting the amount of money that he makes in half, you taking away money. That's like your taxes getting increased on your job or whatever the case is. So if your taxes get increased on the amount of money that you make, you basically making not half or whatever that chop of, whatever that cutting percentage is what you're going to experience in your income level. So the same thing goes to him. Essentially, it's not happening to us. Why should it happen to him when he went out here and he spent however many years creating something that we want to use? I don't agree with that. So level the playing field. We can all go out here and do the same thing that Jeff Bezos did, or what Elon Musk did, or what anybody who owns these large corporations. They spent the time and I'm a producer too. I got a mobile app, and I do real estate. So I get the part about being a producer, and then to have that cut in half, because my taxes are going to get cut in half when Biden gets in. And it's unfortunate because I put a lot of work in. I don't think people understand the amount of time that you got to put in. I stay up till 3, 4 in the morning dealing with different development teams to create a great product to give to other people to make their life easier. But then when it gets to the point of where I have a lot of people using my platform, I'm going to get taxed more for the amount of work that I put in years before, or even as the app develops, which is unfortunate. You know what I mean? Just because I make a lot of money because I have a bunch of consumers that want to use my product, I don't think I should get taxed more. But that's just how it is. And so to decrease the inequality gap, I don't even know how that's going to decrease the gap. You're going to take money from me and you're going to give it to someone who's going to go out and spend it. Like I just gave you guys the examples of how the gap gets larger. So even if you take it away from me, to go give to somebody else, they're going to still take it and spend it somewhere else. If they took the money from me and gave it to someone else and they invested that money, that may decrease the inequality gap. But if they take it from me and they go spend it at Burger King, or they go spend it at Toys R Us, or they go spend it buying another car, somebody is still going to get richer. It doesn't matter. And so that's the disconnect I think we have. There's always going to be consumers. So as long as you have producers and consumers, there is going to be a gap if the consumers keep spending the money on whatever it is. So you can't have products without inequality. There's inequality in Germany. There's inequality in Latin America. There's inequality in Asia. It's everywhere because every country has someone that's making something. You're going to have to live somewhere. You got to wear shoes. So whoever's making these, the person that is the creator, such as myself, if you keep going and you tax us more and more, what's the incentive for us to keep creating? It takes away that incentive for anybody because it won't even make sense. But even if, so if you don't know my story, I've told it many times. I was on government assistance. I grew up in poverty, the whole thing. And so when you grow up in that environment, I know what it's like when you get government assistance. You get money. You get money from the government and it's tax free. And so I always tell the story like you get maybe $200 per kid, maybe $500 or $600, and $200 per kid for food stamps. And then I think it's like $500 or $600 per kid. And then Section 8, you kind of got to pay $12 to maybe $75 a month for a place. So do the math. If you're getting $500 per kid, you got 4 kids. I mean, that's $2,000. And then you're getting $200 for food stamps. That's $800. So you what's that? About $3,000 a month you bringing in, and your rent's only like $75. So where's the money going? So even with trying to decrease the inequality gap, and you give into certain people on welfare, they're still going to turn around and spend the money on something. So that's what I mean. It's a losing battle to always try to push to close the gap between inequality because it's impossible. Everyone just has to become a creator of something or invest. So instead of going out and consuming the goods, invest into the company. So instead of, you got fractional shares now. To decrease the gap, people need to become investors. So the same communities that we're trying to close the gap on, it's about education. We need to go into these communities and educate them on how they're spending because that's the only way to decrease the gap. It has nothing to do with increasing the taxes on corporations because that's not going to change anything. The gap is still going to be there because, again, I will keep saying it, people are going to need to spend money. So it's a matter of how they're spending it. The gap will only be bridged through these people investing. And again, even if you invested in these companies, the gap is still going to be there. Unless you just be like, look, all the money you make is going to go to the people buying your stuff. And then I'm not going to make anything because why would I make something if I'm not going to make any money from what I'm making? This is my job. My job is to create something that people want to buy. And if I'm not creating, then I'm not creating jobs for other people to come work. So that's what I mean. It's a conundrum. The inequality gap will always be there. As you can see what I'm saying, there's no way to break the gap because the money has to be spent somewhere. So if maybe the government wants to take the money and disperse it to everybody. So maybe the government's plan is to go out here and they create all the jobs and I have no idea. I'm confused on how that's going to even change. But one way to bridge the gap, people just need to invest. You know what I mean? You can maybe get on the same level as people that are producers because you become a producer. So I always feel like everyone that is put on this earth is here for a specific purpose. We all have something to give. My idea is my idea. No one can take it away from me. And people are always concerned about someone stealing their idea. But at the end of the day, in order for someone to steal my entire idea or your entire idea, they'd have to take your entire brain because the process that you go through when you're creating your vision it's only going to be inside of your head. So there's no way for someone to come out with the same exact thing as you. And that's why I don't think people were designed to work for other people. That's why depression and unhappiness are here, because people are doing something that they're not supposed to do. I think we're all put here to produce and create something for other people. So the only way to bridge the inequality gap is if we all become producers and create something. But even then, we're still going to have employees. But the job as an employer is to not make your employees rich. The job as an employer is to make sure your employees have enough to sustain themselves and pay for their rent, pay for a car, or pay for the necessities of life. It's not my job to make this person rich, because if I came up with the idea, I created the system, I did everything, I brought you on board and showed you how to work the system, why should you get paid off of what I came up with and spent time doing? So the same thing, if you go out here and you do the same thing, you wouldn't expect someone to be able to get rich off of you. But what they can do is ride your coattail by investing into your company, because then they can partake in it somewhat. They can't get paid off of your idea 100% because they didn't create it. You know what I mean? But they can partake in it. And that's why I think companies do give shares to people that come on board, depending on how early they come on board. And if you don't, and if you believe in the company that you work for, if they are traded on the exchanges, then you can invest in a company that way. So you can still participate in a company that you believe in, and being a part of the growth of the person, you know what I mean, of the product. So again, the only way to bridge the gap remotely is to teach people how to create, teach people how to produce. And then from that point on, I think the gap will, I don't know, I don't want to say decrease, but I think it could become more level, because we'd all be essentially buying stuff from each other. But at the end of the day, the employees are still going to be along the totem pole, unless they're out there and they have real estate. You know what I mean? So I think the gap can be decreased if we all go out here and come up with a second income stream from somewhere, whether it be real estate, whether it be investing in stocks or something like that. That's the only way to bridge the gap. So education is the key, not raising taxes on the corporations or the people that are wealthy. I mean, that's not going to solve anything, right? You might give some temporary relief to people, but as time goes on and people still produce, the gap is still going to be the same thing. You know what? I think in 2020 was the year of the hustle. So even now, even going into 2021, we're still going to be in this pandemic, I think, for another, 6 to maybe a whole year. I think we're still going to be in the same thing, but I think people are just going to learn how to live with it and adapt to it. But there's still an opportunity for people to make money in 2021. If you didn't get on your grind in 2020, then you're never going to get on your grind, because this was the year of the hustle. If there was a time where you needed to come up with money or come up with ideas or to be creative, 2020 was that year. And if you didn't do it in 2020, then you're never going to do it. Because I don't know if there's ever going to be another time that was as pressing or as hard as 2020. I don't know if there's ever going to be another time in history where the whole world stops. They'll never, ever shut down entire economies or entire countries ever again. They learned, or we all learned, that lockdowns aren't the way. So this is why I think if people didn't create, if people didn't innovate, if people didn't figure out a side hustle in 2020, they are not going to do it. The motivation won't be there. I think 2020 should be called the year of motivation. I mean, it was good and bad of things that happened, but for me, I stayed broke the entire 2020. Not net worth wise, my net worth increased, but all the money that I got from selling all the property that I had, I put it into real estate. I put it into Bitcoin. I wrote 2 books. I created an education platform. I did so many different things because I saw an opportunity at hand. And so being at home, being able to slow down, it allowed me to think, and it allowed me to see the opportunities that we had in front of us, with the stock market being at all-time lows. Or I wrote a book called Escaping the Entrapment of Debt. And then I wrote a book called The Real Estate Investing Diet. These books are all coming out next year. But this is what I mean by saying it was the year of the hustle. It was the year that people had time to sit down and educate themselves because they were at home. Many of us were not working for at least a month or 2 months. So many people were unemployed. So forbearances, there were so many advantages to 2020. I can't even put into words. Like if you knew that you can push back 12 months of your mortgage and take that money and invest it into the stock market, why wouldn't you do it? If you knew that you can go out here and buy real estate, these are all the things that I think if you knew that you can create, YouTube probably has created more millionaires in 2020 than ever. I don't know if there'll again be another time where you got so many people who became gurus. Some of these people are probably fake gurus, but the information that they're given on their YouTube videos, I mean, some of it's accurate. They could have got it from reading books or watching other people on YouTube, but if they got, 10,000 subscribers and their videos got 31,000 views, they're killing the game right now. I mean, I looked at one guy, he said at the beginning of, the pandemic, didn't even have a channel. And now he has, I think, over 150,000 subscribers. His videos get about 7,000 to 10,000, sometimes 100,000 hits. He's got to be making at least $100,000 a month. So, I mean, 2020 was a year of the hustle. And so if people didn't get it in 2020, they're never going to get it. And it sucks to say that. I think there's still more time. I think 2021 is going to be another year of opportunity. Will you be able to have as much freedom if you have a job that you had? Probably not. You know what I mean? But will you still be working from home? More than likely, yes. Will you be working from home the next couple of years? Yeah. And within that time frame, you could be creating your own YouTube channel. All you need to get is 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and then a certain amount of watch time. And then once you get that and then you have a certain amount of views, you're going to start generating. So you're making money passively just by creating a couple videos. So I'm sure anybody listening to this podcast has some kind of experience or expertise that they can share that people might find useful. YouTube is not easy. I have a YouTube channel. I think I did 6 or 7 videos, but it's very time consuming. And that's something that I don't want to spend my time doing. So then I end up writing 2 books. I created a podcast. I created 2 other businesses that have generated thousands of dollars within a time frame. So I came up with 2 or 3 business ideas, 2 books, online education platform. These are all seeds that I planted that started harvesting fruit within 2020 that are going to, produce so much more fruit in 2021 and beyond. So, man, if you didn't want to say 2020 was a year of motivation, it definitely should have been a year of seed planting. And then you got the next couple of years to harvest those seeds that harvest the fruit that you planted from those seeds. So the gap did get larger in 2020, but if people did things the right way, which a lot of people did do, I think there are going to be a lot of millionaires that come out of 2020. So that gap should decrease over time. And it might have got exasperated because people were sitting at home, like I said, taking the money that they were getting from the stimulus checks and put it into the stock market. So, I mean, the gap got larger because people made it larger. It didn't get larger by itself. So again, man, I think we should just stop having a conversation about why the gap is so large instead of telling people how to decrease the gap. So most of the time, people don't ask how. They always ask why. Why does this dude not pay taxes? Or why is he so rich? Or why can he get this? Or why does they live like this? Versus asking how. How does this person not pay taxes? How did this person come up with this idea? That's the question that people should be asking, man. And I think we worried about the wrong things, man. We worried about people getting richer versus focusing on how they're getting richer. Because I mean, once you underline the root cause of things, that's how you can navigate how to either fix it or how to, do it yourself. And again, that's why you got so many books out there called how-tos, not why-tos. There's a reason behind so many different things, and I don't think people pay attention to it. So I was looking at something the other day, and I think people just think that America is the only place that has this inequality the way it is, or that racism is only in America. if people don't travel or people don't go to different countries, then they don't understand. Racism, the darker you are in any country, is like that. In the Philippines, one of my ex-girlfriends was Filipino. In the Philippines, the darker you are, it was the same thing. If you go to Colombia, it's the same thing. Is racism as obvious as in America? How they treat people? No. But does it exist? With color, one of my friends is from Mexico. He's a I guess you would say white Mexican. And people from Guadalajara tend to be lighter skinned. And then people that live in other parts of Mexico are darker. It's just the way that things were colonized is why people have this perception of skin tone. So it really does not matter where you are. So the same thing goes with inequality. Inequality is in Germany. I watched a video yesterday. It was like an hour and 45-minute long documentary on YouTube, which again, anybody can go watch this stuff, educate yourself however you do. But it was a guy who was a millionaire in Germany, and he did it through real estate. And people were on the welfare system in Germany. So they did a survey where they had a bunch of kids who were immigrants, and then they had kids who were from the country. Most of the kids that were from the country, they were in a better economic situation. A lot of people that were immigrants were worse off than the people that were from the country. So the inequality gap, particularly in Germany, were people that were immigrants. So same thing. I mean, that could go maybe a little bit different, but America is the same way. I think America, you have a different opportunity the way that the America is structured, that people from other countries that are, poor in India, they come over here and they'll have 15 7-Elevens in like 24 months because they see the opportunity that we growing up here, we are surrounded by the opportunity. So we don't take advantage of it. Again, that's what goes back to the entitlement that we do have. We know that we can go out here and get a certain amount of money from the system, and so we don't have to work hard for it. We know that we can go out here and get on Section 8 and pay $75 a month. Like my cousin, for example, he's on Section 8. He was renting a house for my dad. My dad was paying, he was giving my dad $75 a month, but my dad was getting $575. So he was getting $500 from the government and $75 from my cousin. 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. He's living in it. He was complaining about the light bill being $25. Bro, you living in a house where the rent is $575 and you only paying $75 a month and you complaining about a $30 light bill. Come on, man. You know what I mean? So we live in a place where the opportunity is here, but we're just not taking advantage of it. You go to Colombia, you can't get on Section 8, right? The government doesn't really take care of the people like that. You go to Germany, they pay 50% in taxes. So it's harder to just get money in a place like Germany when your income is cut in half, but they got free healthcare, they got free college education. So the benefits of being on welfare in Germany are a lot greater than they are in other countries that have a welfare system. Again, Latin America, welfare system, if they even have one, it probably is horrible. I know I got a lot of friends that live in Colombia, and I always get information about it. I obviously go to Colombia a lot, about to buy property in Medellin in a couple months. So I understand the economy in Colombia a lot more than other Latin American countries, but I know there's a huge gap there. So inequality is huge there. But everybody in Colombia is on their hustle because they got to generate their own economy. And they can't rely on the government to give them money or anything like that. In America, that's not the case. So we have this entitlement attitude because we know we're going to be taken care of. And that's why we have this strong push for inequality and taxing the rich and giving it to the poor. But what they don't understand is foundationally, it's just going to increase the gap over time. So even if you lessen that gap for maybe 3 or 4 years, I mean, I don't even know if that's even possible because you heard what I said earlier. So I don't know, man. I think we fighting a losing battle, but in 2021, stocks are still low. I mean, you can still get on energy stocks. Energy stocks are still beating up. Energy stocks are projected, oil is projected to go to like $75 a barrel in 2021. Right now it's at $40 a barrel. So if you get in on energy stocks right now, you can kill it. There's still so many opportunities. Gold right now is still at an all-time low. Not an all-time low, but it's still low enough for you to get in. And gold's going to increase substantially because we keep printing more money. The government has recently said there's more stimulus to come. So I mean, if you educated on economics, then, you can change your own economy. You can bridge your own gap. You don't even got to worry about, trying to tax rich people. Go out here and do your own thing. So if you understand that with inflation, the cost of goods goes up. So again, even with them trying to bridge this gap of inequality, it's going to get larger because of inflation. So you tax the rich to take away money from them to give it to someone else who's going to spend it, but then you have inflation. So the cost of goods for producing is going to go up on the person that we're trying to tax. How did it even go? Man, do y'all understand how bad the system is messed up? Can you see how they're just making it worse? You know what I mean? So again, I think it all goes back to the government. The government's trying to dig themselves out of a hole that they created. So if the bottom line is, it comes down to debt. The whole issue is debt. If anybody can get out of debt, regardless of their social class, then this won't even be a problem. But the debt levels are so high globally that this inequality is going to always be here, whether it be with corporations or whether it be with the government. And the government created it. Because if you look back at history, you got these videos or these movies you see in black and white. What do they show you? You got the house with the white picket fence and the little dog that runs up to the fence when you come home from work with your briefcase, and then the two kids run to the door. But what they don't tell you is you get into debt because you got the student loans. You get into debt because they got the house. You get into debt because you got the car. Kids aren't cheap. So you get into debt because you got the two kids. The dog is just like having a kid. So now you got more debt because you got 5 miles to feed. The dog is included. You got all of these bills, and you go to college and you get out. But what they don't tell you is that you don't get a job making enough money to pay for all of this stuff right away. You know what I mean? So you got some people that get PhDs. I know one guy, when I was in college, he had a PhD. He worked at Quick Trip. Quick Trip is a gas station. He was a cashier. This dude got a PhD and he's working at Quick Trip. I don't know how in the world he's going to pay off his student loan debt or all the debt that he has. So if you guys look back at slavery, people were debt slaves. People were indentured servants. People came over from these other countries to America on a ship. It's like me going to Colombia. If I got to pay for my flight to Colombia through me going to work on a farm until I pay off my trip to Colombia, then that's what I got to do, right? I take my American Airlines. We're going to give you this free trip over here at $700. You got to go work on this cotton farm to pay off this $700. And then once you pay that off, whatever you do as far as work, that becomes your money. That's essentially what slavery was. So people came over from Europe. They came to America. They were indentured servants. They had a contract, which was a debt contract, where they worked for 2 years. Once they paid off that debt, they were free to go, or they could stay and accumulate wealth, and then they can go off and buy their own land. That's essentially what happened. So slavery is debt. Slavery has always been debt. So the more a person's in debt, the more they're enslaved to the system. So, of course, they say slavery was abolished, but it wasn't. Slavery was innovated. So they innovated slavery by creating the credit system, by allowing us. I think they came up with the credit card in like 1990, something like that, whenever the credit card was invented. So you get people into debt through credit card. You get people in debt through student loans. And who is student loans backed by? Fannie Mae, Sallie Mae. Who are these? Government institutions. Who's your home loan backed by? Come on, man. So they get you more and more in debt. So now what? So now you're a slave to the system. And you got people that own corporations. So if you look at back in the day, people who were slaves to the people who owned the land, who owned the cotton farms, who owned agriculture, who owned real estate, who owned these things. What's the difference now? If you are in debt, you're in debt. So who you're a slave to? You're a slave to the corporation. You're a slave to the person who owns the business that you work for, because you need that money to pay off your debt. So the way to get out of slavery back then was to pay off your debt to the person you owed your debt to. The way to get out of slavery now is to pay off your debt that you owe to Capital One, American Express, Fannie Mae, or whoever you owe your debt to. That is the key to breaking inequality or bridging the gap between slavery or the system that we have. So people sit around here and think that slavery was abolished, and it wasn't abolished. It was only innovated. Slavery still exists in other countries. You know what I mean? Slavery is still a thing in China. Slavery is still a thing. I mean, I think there's 40% of the population in other countries are slaves. But again, people don't know this. And so if we're in America, we just think that America is only like this and we got this system here. It's like we so egotistic to think. That's like people not thinking there's not other existence on other planets. I mean, I think it would be, I don't know, conceited of us to think that our country is the only country that operates or that only has these type of problems. Like every country has problems. You know what I mean? So I think we just need to not focus on what the narrative is that is being pushed and what people are telling us, and we just need to do our own research. And education at the end of the day is the key to everything. And if you listen to rich people, if you listen to, anybody who's ever made it, what do they say? They always say hard work, and they always say education. Any financial guru or anybody that runs a corporation, they're always going to say these two things. You can go back and listen to podcasts or watch videos, and everyone's going to say the same thing because there's a science to money. There's a science to everything. So why wouldn't there be a science to money? And that's why when people go bankrupt or people that are millionaires, they're able to turn around and become a millionaire or to get out of bankruptcy or become wealthy again within a shorter amount of time because they understand the science of money or the science to getting rich. And so I was talking to my cousin about this too. Man, I think the people that come from poverty they kind of have an advantage. So like for me, I grew up with nothing. And so I have an advantage because I came from zero. So anything above zero is amazing to me. You know what I mean? So if I fall from 100 to 45 or 30%, I'm still doing good. I'm still fine because I came from zero. The disadvantage to people who come from wealth, well, for me, example, I created my own wealth. I did everything. I educated myself. I worked hard. I got to where I got to because I just put in the work. So I know the steps that I took to get here. People that came from wealth, there's a disadvantage to those people. If they ever fall from grace or if they ever fall off and they inherited the money from a family member or someone died and they had a life insurance policy and the kid got rich, if they ever fall off, they're not going to know how to get back there. I mean, it's a slight chance that their parents might have taught them. But for the example, a lot of wealth is passed through life insurance policies. I think that's a lot of wealth transference. And I think that some communities don't even think about that. So you got to think about it. If you die, and like you do a term life insurance, I mean, I just did one the other day. I think I just did $500,000. You just have multiple. But I think I did $500,000 life insurance policy and it was $50 a month. So if anything should happen to me, my son's going to get $500,000. So he's going to instantly be rich, right? So I think if my son, but he's educated because I always show him different things. He knows about Bitcoin. He's just educated on finances. But if he wasn't educated on finances, if he got a $500,000, he'd probably just run through it and blow it and do something stupid. And then he wouldn't know how to get back there. But the advantage of people that grew up in poverty, you know what it's like to not have. So again, when you get to the place of having it, you're not going to squander it. I would hope not. Some people do, but they get back to the second time around, they get back to it and they don't do it again. Because I ran through a lot of money in my 20s because I was making it so easy. And I fell off. I had a lot of money and then I had to do it over again. And when I did it over again the second time, I didn't do what I did. But back to my point, when a person who has no idea of how they generate that money because they didn't generate it, they're going to probably be depressed, commit suicide, do some crazy stuff, end up homeless, or whatever the case is, because they didn't have to take the steps to generate that money. And so that's why I think people that come from poverty, and maybe it's a reframe of the way to look at things. If you reframe how you look at your situation and be like, you know what, I'm coming from zero. So anything above me coming from zero, it's just an extra. That's like going to a restaurant and getting dessert. I don't buy dessert that often, especially when you don't have money. If you can buy dessert, you're like, oh man, it's like a treat. So if you grow up in the hood and you educate yourself and you figure out how to get out of it, you grow up wherever you grow up in a third world country and you make money, you get out of your situation. And man, it's like a cherry on top when you get past 50%, if you get past, if you only had $1,000 in your bank account and you get to the point where you have 20 grand, you win it. You win it. So I think there's an advantage to people that are, less fortunate if they play it right. You know what I mean? Instead of worrying about why other people have so much money, once you figure out how and you start doing it for yourself, you're killing the game. And if you do get it and you get excited, that's why a lot of athletes, I guess that's a different story. Some people, they say 72% of athletes go broke after they get done, after they retire. And it depends on their background. Maybe they didn't get educated in that time frame, and so they fell off and they lost it. I think Antoine Walker, Boston Celtics, I think he got a championship. I think he was worth $100 million at some time. I heard this man was working in a grocery store. You know what I mean? I think it depends on how you get the wealth. I built my wealth through real estate, building businesses, investing in stocks and things like that. If I played ball and if I would have made it to the league, there was a reason why I didn't make it to the league. I wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation with you. And I did the NBA camps. I did a bunch of different things like that. You know what I mean? But I didn't make it. And had I made it, maybe I would have been in the same situation because my education level on finances wasn't what it is right now. So I think it all depends on if you come from poverty and how you build your wealth. I think that also plays a factor into it. But you still got an advantage, right? You still got an advantage if you grew up without anything. You know what I mean? If you were at zero, you can't go any lower. If you at rock bottom, it can't get any worse. The worst it could get is, I guess, if you were homeless. I was homeless. I slept in the attic. I did all of that. So again, I think there's advantages to the gap and inequality. For me, I had so much motivation coming from that environment. You know what I mean? I wasn't sitting around being like, oh man, they got this, they got this. To me, I was like, how can I get that? I remember living in the hood with my grandmother. My parents were in the military. They were, traveling around. They were gone a lot. We lived in the hood. We had a tin roof. It was like third world country-ish. We had a tin roof. It was like a 2-bedroom shack made of you can see the ground under the house, right? My uncle and my grandfather built the house. So it was rain. We got to put buckets everywhere in the house to catch the water. It was third world country-ish. I went to live with my parents on base 1 year. I might have been 6, and I had my own room. Like the toilet seat I had in my grandmother's house was like a plastic seat, had a crack in it, would cut my leg when I would sit on it. I went to go live with my parents. It was on base. I had my own room. It was a nice house, porcelain toilet. I was excited over the toilet. That's what I'm saying. Who gets excited over a toilet? I was just amazed that I had my own room, a toilet that didn't have a crack in the seat. You know what I mean? I had a backyard. It wasn't gravel or just wasn't dirt. So I stayed with my parents. I think it was about 1.5 years or 2 years. Then I had to go back and live with my grandmother. That instantly gave me motivation. It changed my life. Just from that experience of living with my grandmother and how we were living, and me just going and having my own room, and the house wasn't even that big, and just having a basic toilet. So I'm saying I think there's advantages to that. So my motivation when I came back from living with my parents to having lived with my grandmother again was like, man, I seen the light. There's no way that I'm going to stay in this environment that I'm in right now because I know I can do better. So I think if you know better, you do better. So in my mind, I was like, my motivation instantly was just to try to get my own room again. Here I am 7 or 8 trying to just get my own room or just get a toilet that didn't have a crack in the toilet seat. So I think you just look at things however you look at them. And I think it should be motivational, man. I don't think people should be so concerned about what other people were doing. Not one time throughout that entire phase did I ever get mad and be like, this person should do this or increase this person or increase taxes. I never, not one time, thought to do anything harmful or negative to the person who had it. My mindset was just like, let me get what they got. How did they do this? Let me get where they at. Whether it be me trying to play basketball, me trying to, I was in entertainment. I was trying to figure out whatever I did by any means necessary to get to that point. By the time I was 15, I was already committed to becoming a millionaire or at least get my family out of this environment. We lived in this house. Then my My aunt had a trailer home. My other cousin had a trailer home. It was just the environment that I was in. So my commitment was to like, I'm getting my family out of this environment. It had nothing to do with anybody else. So I think that's the issue, right? I think the issue is people are so focused on reparations or what happened to us 400 and something years ago. Like, we want reparations from something that happened to people that wasn't even us. It was our great, 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 great something. And we want to get, reparations from that. I think we shouldn't wait for that. I think we shouldn't feel entitled to anything. I think playing a victim or feeling entitled prevents us from achieving our own greatness because we're so worried about trying to get something from somebody else versus worrying about what the greatness we have inside of us or what we have to give to get to where, we're employing other people. So I think as a whole, man, it doesn't matter what country you're in. I think we should just worry about our own personal economy and worry about why we're put on this earth. Figure out what your purpose is versus trying to figure out other people that have found their purpose. Obviously, they did because they're millionaires or doing what they did. They figured out their purpose. I think there's a disconnect with people understanding why these people got to the level that they did. Since I've done it, what gave me my clear focus was, for one, my upbringing, but I figured out what my purpose was. And once I figured out what my purpose was, and I figured it out at 15, once I figured it out, it changed my life. It's like having a goal. It's like having a destination. When you have a destination, a goal is a destination. When you have a destination, you know what you're trying to get to. You know where you're trying to go. If you don't have a goal or a destination, then what are you doing? You're just out here. You're just out here living life. So you can't get to the level of where other people are because these other people had something or had a destination that they were trying to get to. And that's, a result of them trying to get to that destination. I really don't think people are trying to get rich or achieve something. I think people figured out. I don't think Elon Musk is trying to get to Mars to get rich. I don't think he's trying to put life on Mars. With him doing that, he's going to become a trillionaire, more than likely, because he's trying to do something that's unfathomable to save human existence. He created Tesla because he was trying to save human existence, not because he's trying to get rich. That's just a result of him getting rich. If he was already rich with PayPal, he got $100 million from PayPal. He took $100 million. He could have said, I'm good, I'm done. He took $100 million and invested into SpaceX and Tesla and had to borrow money to pay his rent because he's trying to save human existence. So that's what I mean. I think once you figure out what your purpose is, the rest of your life will become simple. You're not worrying about other people and worrying about inequality and all these other things, man. That stuff will work itself out if people start to be educated on what they can do and figure out what their purpose is. So again, man, guys, don't worry about inequality. Don't worry about the news. Don't worry about any of that stuff because it's always going to be there. The way the system is designed is created that way. So people do this with the news. They politicize everything. They politicize COVID. They politicize inequality. These are all things that go on in other countries that are not politicized. Like, you go to freaking Colombia or other countries, man, they talk about it, but not to the level of how it goes in America, man. We just do things so different here, man. It's amazing. That's why so many people are getting out of here because of the way it's being ran. But anyway, man, I'm going on a rant. I need to hop off of here. But guys, take advantage of 2021. Don't worry about inequality. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. What they're doing, they did it because they found a purpose. And what they did, obviously, is helping us in life. So figure out what your thing is, and then your life was more than likely going to turn out what like theirs is. My idea behind my platform is very similar to what Jeff Bezos did with Amazon and what Elon Musk is doing with Tesla. My platform is the same way. My platform is going to decrease inequality. What's going to happen? The same thing is happening with what I created. The same thing will happen with what you create, whether it be going out here and buying a property for someone to live in, coming up with some kind of food, shoe line, or just ride the coattail of people like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. You know what I mean? Just hop on a platform that's doing something that's helping people in life, and you'll change your own. So Again, take advantage of 2021. It's still going to be similar to 2020, but not the exact same. Learn to live with the virus and take advantage of the opportunities that are in the market because it's not going to last that long. Oil and gas, commodities, they're going to skyrocket. And they're going to skyrocket fast. And you might have another 6 or 7 months. But take advantage if you listen to this podcast, and I hope it was helpful. If you ever got anything you want me to talk about, please shoot me an email, astewart@residualroads.com, or hit me up on social media, Andre Stewart 1 on Twitter, Instagram. I'm never on social media. So if you send me something, I'm going to get it eventually. But anyway, man, happy holidays. Don't do New Year's resolutions. Make it a lifestyle because, do something and say, hey, I want to do this. It's not going to last that long. But once it becomes a lifestyle, it's definitely going to change. So thank you guys and see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
Aren't you ready to start a business or grow your real estate investing portfolio? If you answered yes, allow Andre and the expert advisors at the Residual Roads Business Institute to fast track and put you on a path to full-time investing. The greatest transfer of wealth in our lifetime is occurring over the next few years, and you can take advantage if you know what to look for. In order to be successful at real estate investing, you need to learn how to leverage your current resources to generate quick money, big money, and retirement money. Let Residual Roads advisors craft a plan to get you through these phases using little or no money in 6 months or less. Don't wait for a job. Create one for yourself and others. Go to residualroads.com for mentorship, and for our free course, go to residualroads.thinkific.com.